Captain Marcus Raid stood in the salvage yard, staring at the rusted hulk that would either make his career or end it spectacularly. The decommissioned destroyer Resilience lay half-buried in metallic debris, her hull scarred by decades of battles and neglect. To most people, she looked like expensive scrap metal. To Marcus, she looked like opportunity. "You're insane," muttered Chief Engineer Elena Vasquez, running her scanner over the ship's corroded exterior. "The Navy condemned this bucket 20 years ago. Half her systems are fried, the other half are obsolete, and I'm pretty sure something's living in the ventilation system." Marcus ignored her pessimism. 3 months ago, he'd been cashiered from the Navy for insubordination. His crime had been suggesting that outdated vessels could be retrofitted with experimental technology instead of being scrapped. The brass had called his ideas wasteful and impractical. Now, with humanity facing its first genuine alien threat, those same ideas might be their salvation. The hegemony had appeared 6 months ago, a collective of machine intelligences that viewed organic life as inefficient. Their ships were technological marvels, adaptive hulls that could reconfigure in real time, quantum processors that predicted enemy movements, and weapon systems that learned from every engagement. Humanity's newest vessels had lasted mere minutes against them. But Marcus had a theory. "The problem isn't our technology," he explained to his ragtag crew as they began salvaging usable components from the yard. "It's our approach. We build ships like machines, predictable, efficient, logical. The hegemony thinks like machines too, so they can anticipate our every move." Dr. Sarah Kim, a disgraced AI researcher who'd been blacklisted for her unethical experiments, looked up from a pile of neural interface components. "You're talking about building something chaotic, something that doesn't follow standard operating procedures." "Exactly." Marcus gestured toward the Resilience. "This ship has battle damage from 17 different conflicts. Her systems have been jury-rigged, patched, and modified so many times that her original blueprints are meaningless. She's not efficient, she's adaptive. The retrofitting took 4 months. They couldn't afford military-grade components, so they improvised." Elena welded salvaged armor plating over the hull in seemingly random patterns, creating a patchwork that looked ridiculous but distributed impact force in unpredictable ways. Sarah installed a hybrid AI system cobbled together from obsolete mining computers, civilian navigation systems, and even some modified gaming processors. The weapon systems were particularly unconventional. Instead of standardized naval guns, they mounted everything they could find: railguns from demolished space stations, mining lasers, repurposed asteroid defense systems, and even some experimental weapons that Sarah had borrowed from her former research facility. "She's ugly as sin," Elena declared, standing back to admire their work. The Resilience now looked like a ship built by committee if the committee had been drunk and working in the dark. "Perfect," Marcus replied. The first test came when hegemony scouts entered the Sol system. 3 sleek, symmetric vessels emerged from quantum fold space, their surfaces rippling with adaptive nanotechnology. They immediately began scanning for threats, their AI systems cataloging every human ship in the vicinity and calculating optimal attack vectors. They completely ignored the Resilience. "Our readings indicate a derelict vessel," came the transmission from the lead hegemony ship. Disregarding non-threat, Marcus smiled. The ship's chaotic modifications had created a sensor signature so inconsistent that the hegemony's logical AI couldn't classify her. Its quantum torpedoes detonate harmlessly against a shield system that appeared to be powered by 3 different energy sources simultaneously. "This vessel does not conform to any known engineering principles." "That's the point," Marcus responded, then ordered a full barrage. The final hegemony ship tried to adapt, its hull reconfiguring to counter the Resilience's weapons. But how do you adapt to chaos? Every time the alien AI thought it had analyzed the human ship's attack pattern, Elena would reroute power through a different system, or Sarah would activate a backup weapon that operated on completely different physics, or some long-forgotten modification would suddenly prove crucial. The hegemony ship fled. Within hours, every news network in human space was broadcasting footage of the battle. The junk ship that had single-handedly driven off 3 advanced alien vessels became an overnight sensation. More importantly, it became a blueprint. Fleet Admiral Chen, the same woman who had dismissed Marcus's ideas months earlier, stood in his makeshift command center a week later. The Resilience was now surrounded by dozens of decommissioned vessels, each being retrofitted by teams of disgraced engineers, scientists, and officers. "Your methods are unorthodox," she admitted, watching as a crew installed what appeared to be a food processor into a destroyer's targeting system. "But they're effective. The hegemony's entire strategy depends on predictability. You've given us something they can't predict: controlled chaos." Marcus nodded toward the salvage yard, where his growing fleet of mismatched vessels was taking shape. "The Navy always taught us that standardization was strength. But sometimes, the best weapon is the one your enemy can't understand." 6 months later, the junk fleet had grown to over 100 vessels. Each ship was unique, built from salvaged components and held together by ingenuity and determination. They didn't look like much, but they had something the hegemony couldn't counter: the beautiful unpredictability of organized chaos. The aliens had superior technology, but humanity had something even more powerful: the ability to